driving's a highly skilled balancing act with a professional driver at the wheel. But there are some drivers out there who think they're starring in their very own road movie. They're the Brat Pack on tonight's Police Camera Action. The Brat Pack is responsible for crashing cars, running into trouble, and losing control. Safe driving's all about concentration, control and experience. Skills sadly lacking in the average young driver. In fact, a 17-year-old is 7 times more likely to be involved in an accident than his father. But with training, drivers like Steve here can learn to drive safely in even the most hazardous of circumstances. This member of the Brat Pack finds it hard to give way. More instruction is certainly needed for this young learner. But instructors don't teach you to dice with death as you overtake other cars. Even passing your test is no guarantee of skilled driving, as officers discover following this white car that almost causes an accident. They're less than impressed and charge the driver with careless driving. But the Brat Pack often think they're better drivers than other people. They're wrong, as this young disqualified driver in Staffordshire shows. The car is his own, but underneath the bonnet is a stolen, race-tuned engine, which proves to be too much for his capabilities. Lucky to survive the crash, the driver was sentenced to 21 months in prison. By far the worst members of the Brat Pack are teenagers in stolen cars. Dangerously swerving around a patrol car, attempting to slow it down, this 18-year-old driver is on a reckless journey at twice the legal speed limit.
Still 80 miles per hour in a 40 zone.
The car's been stolen earlier in the night from Stoke-on-Trent, and he's driving as if he owns the road.
Norton Lane, Norton Lane.
Narrowly missing the morning's milk delivery, he grapples for control over the vehicle as he speeds round the narrow streets.
Cadman Crescent, left into Farrington Close, out of control.
Then skimming parked cars, he still refuses to give up and leaves the road, trying to lose his pursuers in some derelict garages.
Yeah, we're behind garages, behind garages. Now we've now got out of the garage setting, we've missed 2 patrols, and
Fortunately, it's 4:30 in the morning and the roads are deserted as the panicking metro driver ploughs into a wall.
turning right into a wall. Quick save car park.
He then tries to escape through a car park.
He's going left again, out of the car park, past Thornton Stores. Yeah, we're at the traffic lights, Milton.
But speeding through a set of red traffic lights, his time is running out.
Straight over at the traffic lights and into Milton, past the late...
And the hot-headed youngster makes his last mistake. This video helped put him in a young offenders institution, but nowadays it's not only police cars that have cameras. Here on Police Camera Action, we rely on police cameras fitted to cars for a large part of our footage. But here in the northeast, police have gone one step further. They fitted a camera to a horse. Cleveland's mounted police are used for crowd control and public order incidents. But one of the problems they've faced in the past at large events is pinpointing the troublemakers. So police here at Ormsby Stables in Middlesbrough set about designing a solution. And in fact, they've come up with a world first. It is
the horse cam. And I'm talking into it right now. It's fitted into Graham's helmet. It's about the size of a shirt button. Now, the images that it gathers are then transmitted into this data recording box, which is really rather like a saddlebag. Graham's also equipped with a personal data terminal, which is linked directly to the National Police Criminal Database. All this means that the horse cam has proved an invaluable asset out on the streets in identifying potential trouble spots.
Middlesbrough, the home team, have lost 3-0 to Manchester United. It's a potentially explosive situation as police try to separate rival fans. These pictures from the horse cameras are fed to a control centre, and watching officers give the orders to disperse the crowd. The tactics work. Mounted officers continue to keep the fans moving away from the ground, even those grabbing a quick snack in a doorway. As the home fans reach the station, some are reluctant to leave, and a large crowd gathers. With Manchester United supporters due any minute, officers try to avoid trouble by clearing the area. The crowd quickly disperses. No arrests were made, and once again, two sets of opposing fans are successfully kept apart. Some horses have been policing football matches for so long, they've developed their own techniques. Warrior likes to nudge the fans back into line. But here it's a police dog Cleveland officers hope will help them find the criminals who've abandoned a stolen car. Watching from above is the police airplane's thermal image camera. This one shows hot objects as black. Proving that 2 legs are no match for 4, the dog quickly has one in custody. And it's not long before dog and handler have the 3 youths cornered on a housing estate. The runaways eventually realise that they've met their match and sheepishly give themselves up as yet more officers arrive. The penalty for a crime like this is a spell in a young offenders institution.
Car crime may be falling, but it's still an offence that's predominantly committed by young men. Last year's figures show that 97% of all offences were committed by males, and of those, 67% were under 21. Well, here at Huntercombe Young Offenders Institution, they want to change all of that with what they call the Way Out programme. The course is designed to turn the fascination and knowledge that these first-time offenders have for cars into something more positive by training them in car maintenance. But it's a two-way street as well. For the manufacturer who provides the cars and the spare parts, they learn how young people break into cars and therefore they can improve their own security systems. So far, this scheme has had a dramatic effect, with a 20% reduction in reoffending rates. And what's more, many of these young people now leave this institution and get a job.
This message has yet to get through to these young offenders who are travelling in a stolen car after a burglary. In a drastic bid to escape capture, they start throwing the TV sets they've stolen at the pursuing officers. Swerving to avoid the sets being hurled from the open hatchback, the Lancashire officers' driving skills are put to the test. As yet another TV smashes onto the road, officers might be thinking the Brat pack have robbed an electrical wholesaler's and not just a suburban house. And it's not only TVs, they've got videos as well. Eventually, all 3 were arrested and charged. One got 3 years in a young offenders institution. In America, fleeing criminals are often armed, like the driver of this green pickup truck, who's wanted for carjacking. He ignores police demands to stop. Even an appeal closer to home falls on deaf ears, when, bizarrely, his sister runs out to the car, pleading with her brother to give himself up. He doesn't listen and drives off, leaving her sprawled on the road. His erratic driving has damaged a tyre, and it flies off, leaving him driving on the wheel rim. The wheel begins to spark and makes controlling the vehicle at speed virtually impossible. As the fleeing criminal approaches a junction, he's blocked by traffic. Panicking, he smashes into stationary cars, damaging his vehicle so badly that he can't carry on. But his flight is not yet over, and the desperate youth hijacks an innocent driver at gunpoint. Fearing for his life, the innocent driver tries to escape, but he's trapped by his seatbelt. As the 2-hour pursuit draws to an end, night falls. Weaving through the traffic, the carjacker finally loses complete control of the vehicle, crashing into the central reservation. His last-ditch attempt to make a getaway doesn't stand a chance. He's arrested and sent to prison for 7 years.
In part 2, we're on patrol with the police along the coast of Wales, stopping the illegal flow of drugs to Britain's young drivers. This coastline is beautiful, but it's also a potential godsend for drug smugglers. But Dyfed-Powys police are determined to frustrate the criminals, and this boat is their latest weapon in the battle against the drug runners. And the biggest haul to date, more than 1.5 tons of high-grade Moroccan cannabis resin. Street value, £4.5 million. Whilst this boat may go some way towards stopping the illegal importation of drugs along this coast, it can only dent the growing problem nationally of drug abuse on our roads. It's estimated that there are more than 3 million people in the United Kingdom who regularly abuse drugs. And a staggering 85% of those in their early 20s claim that their friends and acquaintances regularly drove a car after taking drugs.
Carrying drugs and driving a stolen car is making the young offenders in the white Astra nervous, and they're unwilling to stop for the police. As they run a red light on Oxford's Blackbird Leys estate, they're aware that the Chiltern Air Support Unit are following them from above. They decide to take a shortcut. Not bothering to stick to the roads, they drive over the pavement and across the grass in an attempt to escape capture. The driver's inexperience shows as he drives along the roads, overshooting the corner and nearly hitting a tree. The youngsters are quick to run, but it's a pointless exercise, as the helicopter crew above are tracking their every move. There's no getting away. Ground patrols are soon on the scene, where they find the youngsters and the drugs they're carrying. The driver was sentenced to 80 hours community service and got a 12-month supervision order. Alcohol is one of the most popular recreational drugs, and this man in the Highlands appears to have been drinking far too much to be behind the wheel. Clearly worse for wear, he weaves along the road, ignoring the requests of police officers to pull over. It was obviously a lot more than a wee dram at lunchtime that put him 4 times over the drink-drive limit. But he seems to know where he's heading and leads officers on a merry dance to a residential car park, where he calmly comes to a halt. But this is a man who'll be sobering up to a 2-year ban and a £350 fine. But you don't have to be high on drugs or alcohol to be a danger on the roads. This runaway driver in South Carolina is high on emotion. A row with his wife has sparked him off and triggered a pursuit which ends up threatening hundreds of lives. Desperate to speak to her again, he races through the streets, reaching speeds of 120 miles an hour. Driving on the wrong side of the road, he has no thought for the safety of other drivers. But up ahead, officers plan to stop the offender with a stinger device, designed to pierce the bandit car's tyres and slow it down. But the offender spots the stinger and swerves round it, losing control and spinning off the road.
Base, he's 1050 and he's 1050.
He somehow manages to regain control of his vehicle, but things can only get worse as he continues on his manic mission to get away from the police and find his wife. As he takes a shortcut across a garage forecourt, officers try to cut him off, but end up shunting him into a petrol pump, which suddenly catches alight. Completely unaware of the danger he's in, the man refuses to leave his car. With 30,000 gallons of petrol stored under him, he's sitting on a time bomb. As children are quickly evacuated from a nearby dance school, officers are left with no choice but to take their lives in their hands and try to move the offender away from the flames.
301 at 260 at the corner. 301 at 260. He's taking off again.
Once again, police fear he's going to flee, but the offender seems to have given up, although he refuses to open the car door, and police are forced to smash the window. Clearly in a distraught state, it would be a surprise if he could hear himself think with that radio on full volume. After a struggle, officers manage to drag the man from his car, and they charge him with failing to stop for a police officer.
Hand behind your back.
Dyfed-Powys Police also have this high-powered launch, which is capable of speeds of up to 40 knots and can provide a rapid response to marooned boats or stricken swimmers. Capable of carrying a 3-man crew, it's equipped with the latest navigational and self-righting equipment. It all means that the police now have a high-profile presence along this remote coastline of West Wales, which is difficult to access by road. But a rapid response to any waterbound emergency can be vital, as our next clip shows.
There's no time to be lost when a boat turns over in high seas. Fortunately for these part-time sailors in the Solent, the Yarmouth lifeboat is quick on the scene. The highly trained crew have them off the stricken yacht in minutes and tow their boat back to shore. Lifeboat crews train to react at speed, and every year they save, on average, 1,300 lives around Britain's coastline. But a speedy response is essential in the icy waters of Alaska, where it's a race against time to save lives. 4 crew have already been rescued from the bow of the ship by the Coast Guard helicopter, but there are still men left on deck, clinging on for their lives. Suddenly, a huge wave smashes onto the ship and tosses 2 of the crew into the sea. In icy water like this, Death is literally minutes away. Aware of this, the Coast Guard swings into action, hauling the soaking crewmen to safety. However, some people are not so proud of their actions when they're caught on camera, especially when the camera belongs to the police.
Maybe not.
Obviously in a hurry, this Renault driver thinks it's fine to overtake at high speed.
Swerve overtake.
Travelling so fast he can't possibly stop when a car pulls out in front of him.
Oh, heavy brake, look. Switched.
He first smashes into it and then careers across the grass. But instead of stopping for the accident, he drives off. Police are quick to attract his attention, and he gives himself up.
Found out we're actually dead. No, he's going in the...
He was issued with a £40 penalty ticket and 3 points on his licence. Cleveland officers cannot believe their eyes when they turn onto a dual carriageway and find all the traffic driving in the wrong direction.
And who's told you to complete this magnificent manoeuvre? Who's told you to complete this magnificent manoeuvre? Yeah, why? It is absolute stupidity. I shall give you the same lecture I've just given the other gentleman. You're stuck in a tailback.
An accident has blocked the A19, and it seems these drivers will do anything to avoid getting caught up in the tailback. The Astra driver on the left continues reversing, even though he can see a police car in his mirror.
Turn back around and face the right way.
As the chaos continues, several drivers take notice of the police car and regain their sense of direction. Fortunately, another accident was avoided and no one was prosecuted. But the impatient motorists did cause havoc, and it was an hour and a half before traffic started flowing in the right direction.
That way, idiots!
It's better to keep calm and refrain from fighting back when told off. But after being warned by the police about his driving, this young man could only find one way to vent his frustration.